Next up is the competitive intelligence report. I'm just going to go through the North America page. There are 4 pages, one for each region, but you're going to need to spend considerable time digesting these results. So the first thing I do is I look, okay, here I am, Team G. I look first at internet, and I just kind of cruise down here and see who got a lot of market share. Well, in internet, who got the market share was E and B. Well, let me see why. E, they had a 6-star, $3 higher than B, and they had a little bit less, but they had 150 more models. Neither offered free shipping, and B had a whole lot of money in advertising. So, okay, I kind of see why they both were there. You can look at me. If I compare myself to E, they had 2 more stars at lower price, slightly more models, about the same advertising, and you can see I was right around the industry average of 14.3%. The big loser was F was 6.2%, and again, it's pretty obvious why. You can see their prices were much higher than the other teams, and then they also had very few models, only 53 models. Notice that these both offer free shipping. And so that's a good thing, but it wasn't able to offset the high price. So there's my assessment of what was happening in the internet market. Now I get to the wholesale market. First of all, the first thing that catches my eye are these yellow, highlighted in yellow numbers. What this means is where you see the minus is I ran out of shoes. I had 143,000 people that came into the store to buy my shoes, but I didn't have enough supply for them. The big loser over here was A. This is a huge number of sales to miss out on. They could have either sold more, I'm sorry, they could have manufactured more shoes, or they could have raised their price so that their demand dropped to better match their supply. Although, as it was, they gave up a lot of market share. You wouldn't want to do that. Sometimes this can lead to a little bit of a false impression because if you look down here, it looks like F was the big winner with 18.3%, and they were, but they did that because they picked up a lot of these lost sales. But when you look at the actual demand, you can see that I actually had higher demand than they did. And so that's important as I go in and I look at the competitive factors. So let me just compare myself to F because I know that my shoes were a little bit more in demand than were F's. Okay, their price was much lower than mine, and their star rating was higher than mine. So those are two big things that would tip the market share towards them. But you can see their demand was actually less. Well, why would that be? Well, the first thing is models, and you're going to find that a lot of students, even though I say it repeatedly, they forget that models are a very powerful differentiator. And I don't have a good rule of thumb, but 500 models is like several stars worth of difference if you go all the way up to 500 models. Now, the downside to going up in models is it costs more. But not only do comparing myself to F, do I have a lot more models than they do, I spent a lot more in advertising. I had more of a rebate. Let me go see if I can find somebody that was a little bit closer to me. If I go over, A had exactly the same demand that I had. Let me see how they did it. We had the same price. Well, I know that what A didn't do is A didn't do any changes because they were exactly the same as me. I didn't make any changes, so they didn't make any changes either. I caught you, A. If I look over at somebody that earned higher demand, like E, you can see same price, but 2 models better. Same, I'm sorry, 2 stars better in the SQ. Same number of models, slight advantage in advertising, which I kind of counter with my rebate offer. Delivery time's the same. So, I'm sorry, I was not comparing it over here. I offer a higher rebate, retail utilized, retailer support, same value, same delivery time. So again, what this shows is their higher demand, which is higher than mine, but not a ton higher than mine, um, shows that, well, they did get an advantage by having the better shoes, but to a certain extent, my rebate offer was able to blunt some of that. Okay, so I spend a lot of time going through this and understanding why my shoes sold or did not sell as they should. Incidentally, in the big picture, anytime I can pick up shoes, I'm happy to do that, obviously. But in my mind, if I forecast these things such that this number is give or take less than 100, even if it shows I had a minus 99, I'm not too upset about that. If it gets over 100, now I'm starting to think, well, I really kind of blew it. When you see minus 453, that is a major error that caused me to lose a lot of money. By the same token, if I see a big plus, well, I'm happy I got them, but it tells me I didn't figure the industry correctly because I thought I was going to sell more shoes than I would have earned had these folks not stepped in and been a little too created demand that I was able to pick up. Basically, is what it amounts to. In the private label segment, I come over here to see. Oh, let's see. There was a demand of 1.4 million. We only offered just under 1.1 million, so not surprising everybody sold them, which means that we all could have sold them for $43, and I would have made $8 more per shoe because I could have just tacked on that price. So this is why the private label segment's tricky. You want to bid high enough to make it a good price, but not so high that you don't lose the bids. And obviously you can't bid more than the max price. Again, this is a practice round, so it's no big deal, but notice that Team F bid a 6-star shoe in private label when all they had to bid was a 4. And how much benefit did they get for that? None. No benefit whatsoever. It is picked strictly on price. You can see that both C and I bid $35. Had it turned out that we were the last bids to be accepted, they would have had to have issued a tiebreaker. And to be honest with you, off the top of my head, I forget what is the tiebreaker here. This is why you want to do like G did and bid a slightly odd number, although usually you don't want to be a penny over $35. You'd want to have bid like $34.99 or $34.97, something like that. But private label is volatile, but in some scenarios it can be a great source of profits. So again, I would go through all 4 of the regions because sometimes the stories are very different. And this is a key step in helping me sort out why did I do and then how am I going to do better. Finally, we'll look at the company operating reports.